it's not allowing myself to use COVID as an excuse. It is real, but am I going to sit here and say, well, I just can't do that? And yeah, I could try and go to virtual, and there's a lot of people going virtually, and I definitely do some things virtually. I've done 2 5-day challenges for free on Facebook, but I've also not used it as an excuse to not do the live events.
This is the Staying Power Podcast, a show that explores the challenges business owners face as they grow. I'm Brandon Hall.
And I'm Thomas Castelli.
And together we ask the tough questions to show you that running a business is not for the faint of heart. But if you have staying power, you'll overcome your challenges and achieve lasting success.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Staying Power Podcast. Today, Brandon Hall is out, but I'm joined with Nate Bailey. Nate is a best-selling author of 3 books as well as an entrepreneur. He has built multiple successful businesses in areas such as insurance and real estate. He recently fulfilled his longtime dream of selling his insurance agency to follow his dream of being a full-time coach. Today we discuss why sales and marketing are critical for any entrepreneur, and we also discuss the importance of meeting in person and having experiences and how Nate and his students remain committed to doing that even during the COVID-19 crisis. Nate, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show today. Would you be able to give our listeners a little information on your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Currently I'm a coach. I have a podcast. I do some speaking, a lot of events. And of course that's been impacted, with, I'm sorry, I gotta get my microphone up here for you guys a little better, but, those things, a lot of those things that I've done have been impacted quite a bit through COVID and the shutdown and things like that, just like it has for everybody. But how I really got into what I do today, go back just a little bit. I always found myself gravitating towards leadership positions, whether it was in high school as an athlete or college athlete, became an officer in the Army, National Guard, owned multiple businesses, and, kind of got to a point in my life where I had a lot of things going on, and maybe from the outside looking in, it looked great, but knew that just it wasn't exactly what I wanted. So I kind of stumbled into the coaching world that way as a client, hiring coaches and trying to figure out some things for myself. And that led me into eventually over about a 3.5 year time period of starting to become a coach myself and kind of start from the beginnings and build some relationships and ultimately to the point where I, sold my insurance business of over 14 years. It was very successful. And now I get to go out and help others, just like a coach that came into my life and helped me. So that's a little bit of my background on where I'm at today and what I'm up to.
Awesome. Gotta love coaching. Coaching is always a great help. So now we understand that you do run I think it's experiential leadership training. Could you take us a little bit through what your business looks like today? Do you have staff members? Is it a solo effort? Do you have partners? How is your business structured?
Yeah, you bet. I don't have any official employees, but I definitely have a team of people that I work with. From my video and marketing guy that does a phenomenal job of through these experiential events that you talk about. There's one called the Championship Leadership. It's a 24-hour event. And it's really kind of Navy SEAL military style training exercises for business owners and entrepreneurs mostly, but anyone that is up for the challenge that wants to become a better leader can come through this experience. And we really, for 24 hours, they work out. We give them different evolutions or missions that they need to do. And we talk to them about leadership throughout. We talk to them about teamwork and perseverance and attention to detail and all those things. And it's fun to see them from, hour 0 all the way through to the final hour when they finish, the growth that they've made. And I have a former Navy SEAL, Floyd McClendon Jr., that helps me coach and run that experience. So he's a part of the team. I have a VA that I work with very closely and a few other people, contractors, things like that I have on what I would consider my team. But yeah, as far as, employees, I don't have any employees.
Gotcha. So, kind of want to, before we dive deep down into the business aspect of things of your current business, what are the challenges you see? What are the, like, I guess you would say, the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs and business owners face when they're first taking on a on a leadership role?
Um, I mean, from an entrepreneur or business standpoint, right? To become a leader in your industry or in your space, you get people need to know who the heck you are, right?
Hmm.
That's one of the biggest challenges is really you're your biggest fan, of course, and you believe wholeheartedly in everything that you're doing. You're excited about it, and you can't understand why anyone else wouldn't want to work with you, whatever that might be, right? But we know that in our everyday lives, our clients, our prospects are out there, and they're getting bombarded from every different direction, and to really stand out and be a leader in what you do, it's that's one of the most difficult things in my mind is really continuing to communicate a clear message that people can hear and see, and then also just one that's effective that really speaks to them about where they're at and how you could help them to get to a different place. um, it's we want to go and lead others, but first you have to lead yourself first, right? If you're not leading yourself, if you're incongruent in how you're living or how you're leading your business, then that people they sniff that out fast. And so that's another big piece to it, is just really leading yourself first before you can go out and lead the world, right? So
Makes a lot of sense. I've read a few books. One of them, the effective executive, and one of the first things, one of the principles I think he talks about in that book is that you need, before you can go and manage others or lead others, you need to work on yourself.
yeah,
You need to become more effective yourself, and then that's going to bleed over into the people you coach and manage. Who you mentor. Um, and like another thing you said too about I heard other people call it inner game, if you will. You need to kind of get very clear on what your goals, what your values are, who you're targeting as a client, in order to create that effective marketing message. And marketing is key. Like Grant Cardone says, he says that obscurity is the enemy, and you have to get out there. You have to get
yeah,
known. People have to know you. And to your point, you have to have a very clear message that connects with your target.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned my website, and that you were impressed with that, and the message that I imagine it communicates, or that it communicated to you when you're looking at that. And that's something that I've really put a lot of work and effort into recently, and just rehauled actually during this COVID time. Um, and it's a big piece, but like, there's not one of them that, like, you get the website up and then you're like, all right, the floodgate gates are going to open, right? I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. And so it's a key piece to everything else, but it's not the only piece. And you got to have all of those key pieces together, and you got to figure out ways to consistently keep them moving and working together fluidly. And then you also got to know that just because you get them to work and move fluid together one week doesn't mean that it's always going to stay that way, because the world continues to change. And just like a football team, just because one package or one play worked one week, well, guess what the team you're going to play next week's looking at is last week's game film and seeing what you're doing, and they're going to be ready for that. And so how are you going to prepare and continue to shift and move to stay relevant, not just relevant, but to like stay ahead of the pack, right? You got to constantly evolve and continue to keep your, and that's true in leadership too. You got to continue to keep your finger on the pulse of your team and those that are around you that you are leading.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things you said in there is like you kind of got to stay ahead of the pack, ahead of the competition. What has been, would you say, the most effective, one of the most effective marketing strategy or tactic that you use to constantly get in front of your prospects, or does that seem, or does that change with the competition?
Well, I think it always does. change and shift and evolve, but there's definitely things I think that are kind of your core, right? You know, emailing consistently, continuing to build a list. But you know, when it comes to the events and the experiential events and the video that backs that up and kind of paints a picture and tells a story of what it is that I do, because a lot of times there is a lot of power in the experience, and it's all in it. A lot of times is difficult to convey, like over a phone call, the power of it unless you actually do experience it, right? So if that makes sense. And so yeah, you just gotta, you know, continue to be out there and continue to let people know, because people are busy, and you could be communicating the message for a long time, and it might be going across their feed, but they're not paying attention or noticing because of whatever reason. And then one day it will, and on that day that it would have, and you're not there, like somebody else will come in behind and scoop up. So yeah, it's you know, social media is important from that standpoint when it comes to building a business and growing an audience and communicating the message, and then just being really consistent in who you are, I think is absolutely probably just as important, or if not more important than anything else, is just continuing to be consistent in who you are and what your message is. And, you know, so there's longevity there too, that really does pay a price and pay off. And you got to be patient enough and effective enough to make it to the long game, right? Like, you know, a lot of people will go hard for a bit, lose steam, and then quit and try something else, right? So those that are committed are going to be the ones that will be rewarded.
No, absolutely. So it's consistency, and you got to be in it for the long term. You can't just, it's not, you know, you can't just put a few posts out there on social media and expect to grow a following just
Yeah,
overnight.
absolutely.
Usually doesn't work like that. So, you know, looking at your current business, and I know you've owned multiple businesses in the past, but the current one, leadership coaching, what has been the most significant challenges you face just getting this business started and off the ground?
Yeah, it's, you know, this year has been tough. So I've been full-time coaching, had a business partner for the last really 3.5 years. And then in the middle of COVID decided it would be a good idea to go out on my own. So I'm not sure if that's something that is recommended to anyone, but I think, you know, that's what we're all about as entrepreneurs. We're willing to take those risks. We got something eating at our heart that we know that we need to go out and do. You're going to go do it, and you're going to sink or you're going to swim. And so, everything that I've done, like I said in the beginning, really I've gravitated towards leadership positions from a very young age. And so all of that has helped to prepare me for what I'm doing right now. The last 3.5 years of running live events and, you know, helping business owners, men and women across the world, transform and get the results that they're looking for in their life, and leading these types of experiences, and just all the reps and in the time as a coach, right? In all kinds of different conversations and situations is helped me prepare me for where I'm at today. And then it's living, especially in the leadership position, right? It's, you know, you definitely have to live what you teach and preach. That's always been something that's been kind of like a definite core value for me. And that's the reason I push myself physically so hard, running 100 miles or doing Ironmans or 42, 52 or 52-hour events called Seal Fit Coral, because I know the benefits in that. And I'm never going to ask anyone to do anything that I wouldn't be willing to do myself personally. And so it's important for me from all those different reasons to continue to show up and live what it is that I'm talking about and that I'm teaching. And so, you know, it's a high standard, and it's a high standard to live up to, but it's worth it, right? Because whether you choose a high standard or a low standard, either way, it's just like the low standard, you know, being comfort and complacent and just settling for whatever is handed to you, that can seem easy in the moment, but later on in life, you'll realize the heavy price that you paid through regret, right? By not living up to the higher standard and being the standard that others can achieve to. And so, yeah, it's just recognizing that and knowing you have a choice and choosing which one you want, and then doing what's required to go get that. And it's not easy. It's not.
I couldn't agree more with what you just said there. I mean, that's all what being a leadership's about. What being a leader is about. Being able to take that stand and be able to say, you know what, I'm not gonna take what other people hand to me. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna get it on my own. I'm gonna put the work in, and and you're speaking to my soul here, man. It's just not. It's not.
Love it.
It's not easy, and it's not easy. And this kind of just to ask you a question, I know you said before you had partners in the past, you worked, and this year you decided to go out by yourself. Why go out why not just stick with partnerships? Why take this one alone?
Well, I mean, there's many reasons that go into the decision. But ultimately it's, just knowing who I am and that I definitely have. There's a definite group of people out there that I can serve at a really high level. And when I'm over here working almost, not necessarily out of integrity, but I'm not really fully being who I truly am. Right. And then when you make the leap, then you can fully be like everything that you are and really go and impact the people that you want to, the way you want to do it. Right. Whenever you have partners, it's a partnership. So it's just like, you don't do everything that you want to do. I mean, you have conversations, you have discussions, make business decisions based on what's good for the team and the partnership. And I really wanted to go out and do this my way. And so, but with that, now it's like everything falls on me, as I think all great leaders have that responsibility that, Jocko Willink calls it extreme ownership. It's, when things go really well, you kind of deflect and you don't take all the glory and the praise, you deflect to those that helped you to get there. And then when all things fall apart, like 100% ownership and responsibility falls on the one that's in charge. And that happens to be me right now. And inside of my business, like, everything that happens, good or bad, is a reflection of me and my leadership.
I really like what you said there about, when you're doing it, when you're the leader, everything is, you kind of do it your way, everything, right? When you're in a partnership, there's always some form of compromise, right? And they say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, say like if everybody came into a partnership and had the same ideas, then there's no need to have a partnership,
Right. Yeah. And, I mean, that's never going to happen. And it shouldn't. I mean, if it's partnership, that's the way it should be. That's what you do when you work, if you're married, like, or if you've ever been in a significant relationship, I mean, with a significant other, it's no different. You don't always get to do what you want to do. Like, you gotta compromise for the good of the team and for what it is that's important to you inside of that relationship. Yeah.
No, 100%. Just kind of going down we ask everybody who comes on the podcast this question, is there any particular challenges you faced, so far along your journey, that made you say, hey, you know what, this entire leadership thing isn't for me. I'm going to go back. I'm going to get a job, or I'm going to just go back to one of my other businesses? Or has there been any challenges you faced that has just been so bad that you're like, you know what, I just want to give up?
Oh man, like almost every day, right? I mean, there's difficulties all the time. And, those, I do believe it's hard. It is hard because there's good days, there's bad days. There's days where, especially for what I do as a coach, as a speaker, as putting on these different events. I mean, there's a lot of challenges right now with the model that I have of, COVID's in the way, restrictions, not every, for a lot of good reasons. People don't want to travel. They don't want to go to live events. And so, that can be frustrating when you're trying to fill an event and not just make an impact, which is the most important thing, but also, hey, let's be real. I got to generate some revenue so that I can feed myself and create a living for myself and my family. And if I can't do that, then I have to go find something else. And now I'm not really making the impact that I know that I can, which is impacting a lot of other people too. So I guess there's that as a reminder for me, like to continue to show up every day, to continue to do what's required, to continue to do the work in front of me, to stay present and to keep moving forward, and knowing that it's just all part of the journey, that there are going to be tough days. There are going to be places where I'm going to stumble, continuing to grow and get a little bit better and learn a little bit more about, because I can be the greatest leadership coach in the world. I can be the greatest coach in the world. But if I don't have clients, then I'm the worst coach in the world, right? Because I'm not helping anyone. Absolutely. And so, you see that there will be, on Facebook or social media, oftentimes there's just people posing questions. And a question that I've seen a handful of times is, can you be a great coach and a broke coach? And the argument for many is, yes, you can be an awesome coach, but you just don't know how to attract the clients. And my argument has always been that no, there's no way you can't. I mean, yeah, just because you feel or you are an incredible coach and you can give people a lot of transformation or whatever you want to call it, right? Or you can help them with massive growth when you're working with them. If you can't find a way to find clients and get them to pay you, for the value that you give to them, it's just not. There's so much more to being a coach and creating a living and making an impact and doing it on a large scale, right? Yeah. Because we all want to make an impact. I really do believe, like we all do, but especially as coaches, I mean, most people are a coach because they love helping people and want to make this big impact, and they have great dreams of doing that. But it's not easy, and it's just like anything. But nothing truly easy or worth anything is easy, right? Like if it was 100%. Easy, there's the old saying, we'd all be doing it. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Just want to hammer one of the points you made there home. Yeah, you could have the most phenomenal service or business or product in the world, but if you can't get out there and market that product and sell that product, then you really don't have a business. So like, I think really as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a leader, one of the most important skills that you can actually develop is marketing and sales, because with, like, to your point, without clients, how good of a coach or how good of a consultant or how good of anything can you really be, or how good can your product be if no one's buying it? So.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at you could say you're the greatest realtor in the country, but if you don't have any sales, like, people are going to look at you like, what? Yeah. Nah, what are you talking about? You're a joke. Like, what do you do? Like, yeah, no, it just doesn't work that way. Yeah.
No, 100%. One of the things that, I know you mentioned before, you do some live events. So how do you help your clients? Like, what is your, do you have courses? Is it all live events? Do you do one-on-one consulting? Could you walk us through from a high level how you actually go about how you deliver the services you offer?
So the answer to that question is, yeah, I mean, all of the above, really. I work one-on-one with clients. I have an online mastermind that we do more like small group coaching. We'll have weekly group coaching calls online on Zoom, just like we're on right now. And then a Facebook group where we'll do trainings and things like that. So I have that platform. And then also the live events. So the 24-hour, that's a leadership driven physical experience. And that's for people that want to go and they want to kind of get pushed to that next level and see what they're capable of and up for a cool experience. Get trained by myself and a Navy SEAL. And then there's this 3-day event that I have coming up, which is really what I've been doing full time for the last 3.5 years, is 10 to 15 people, 3 days. It's a little bit mix of, we'll do some physical stuff in the first day and to really kind of pull out all the lessons that are pulled through working hard, working together with other people, seeing what you're capable of. And then also through a few days, really kind of in a classroom, teaching, talking, sharing. We do some cool experiential things in the rooms. So it's not just us sitting by PowerPoint and they're just taking notes. Like, it's not that at all. It's a lot of digging deep into what it is that they want, helping them to get unstuck, helping them to break some of the limiting beliefs that they have inside of themselves, giving them some real tangible tools inside of business, branding, marketing, podcasting, messaging, video, from experts in the world that are like world class that I'll bring in as speakers and trainers as well. And so the experience is all encompassing, really. And then we'll talk a little bit too, because most of these are entrepreneurs. Is how do you make all that work? How do you take all of that and not drop a nuclear bomb in the middle of your home, right? Like, how do you? It's not worth it if you're going to go build the big business and then blow up your family, right? So how do we make all of it work together is the conversation as well.
Yeah, so just that's actually a great question. How do you personally balance your responsibilities as a leader to your business as well as to your family?
Yeah, I do it personally, and this is what I teach our clients is, very intentionally, very clear on what I want and why it matters to me in all areas. I have a plan. I have a daily systems that I use every single day to keep me on track to make sure that, because like I said, like if I'm running 100 miles, I don't want to run 100 miles and then end up not showing up as a great dad to my kids. That's not worth it. So how can I train and prepare and do what's required to run 100 miles, but yet still show up as an amazing father and have a business where it's thriving and feel connected, right? Depending on what your beliefs are spiritually. And so, yeah, it's just really intentional. And of course, yeah, we have systems that we use and that we teach and how to help people to do that. But it really comes down to, if I had to just boil it down, it's being committed to what you want, being clear on what you want, and then being super intentional about all of it. Because if you don't keep your eye on the ball, like, you're never going to hit it, right? So if you take your eye off of one area of your life, it's going to start to deteriorate, right? So it's being very intentional, not casual. And I was casual in my life for many years, and my results kind of started to show for it.
No, I hear you 100%, 100%. One of the things that I think we've seen, kind of shifting gears a little bit over this last year with COVID is it did disrupt a tremendous amount of people's businesses. And we've talked a lot about that here on the podcast. And, personally, I've been through some of these, more type of coaching things where it is an experience, where it is being in person with a group of people and you're doing the exercises and what have you. It's important to the overall experience, for lack of a better word. With people not traveling to live events, or how have you been able to recreate that type of environment virtually, or have you been able to at all? How do you overcome that challenge?
Well, I mean, people are traveling to the events. It's just not as much as they probably were before. I've done my first. We got the third one coming up November 14th of the Championship Leadership. The first one was in June. The second one was in August. And then now the third class is coming through. It's going to be our biggest class yet of the Championship Leadership 24-hour. So it's not, because I think what many people will do is, it's not allowing myself to use COVID as an excuse. It is real, and it is getting in the way. But am I going to sit here and say, well, I just can't do that? And yeah, I could try and go to virtual, and there's a lot of people going virtually, and I definitely do some things virtually. I've done 2 5-day challenges for free on Facebook with like 600 in the first one and 450 in the second one. And then that's how I've built my mastermind virtually. So those are some of the ways that I've done that, but I've also not used it as an excuse to not do the live events, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Right. So this 3-day experience coming up in Des Moines, the Unleash the Leader Within experience, will be November 5th through the 7th. So we have 5 people coming to that right now, and hope to have, I would like to get another, 2 to 3 or 4. So we have 8 or 9 folks for that, and just make it, because there's so many things that you just can't do virtually. Yes. Can you do things virtually? Can you still have great results? Can it still be a cool experience? Yeah, I think so. but we all know it's not the same, right? I mean, we all know that like we do thrive on connection and being face to face with people. And there's so many things that you can't do because even if here on Zoom, for all I know, your kids are like in the next room. They're running around, the dog's going crazy. You're kind of thinking in the back of your head about all that going on, or gosh, I hope they don't open the door and come in because they've done that to me in my Zoom. So my head, it could not always necessarily be here versus when you're in a live event, you're there, you're away from home, like no distractions, completely present, and you can actually really get the most out of that experience. So I'll always be, and time will tell on how this really shakes up and how this affects how we continue to do business forward. But I'm continuing to not let it be an excuse. And I think that's a big part of leaders, is not allowing things that would be justification or excuse on reasons not to do things. That keeps a lot of people from going after what it is that they want, versus championship leaders that are like, no, I don't care if 90% of people say that can't be done. Like, I'm going to go do it and find out for myself.
I couldn't agree with you more of what you said about the virtual aspect of things. You could accomplish a lot virtually.
Yes.
But there is a lot of value in meeting in person. There's a lot more, like to your point, human connections you could have. And what's surprising is, I think pretty much the majority of people we've had on this podcast so far, if not everybody, has been going the virtual route and been saying, oh, everything's going to go virtual. We're just going to move everything virtual. I like how you stay committed and you don't use COVID as an excuse, because a lot of people, including myself, use COVID as an excuse not to do certain things. And,
sure.
That takes a lot to stay committed. And it goes to show how committed your clients are to, becoming better leaders, because they're willing to travel to, during this time. So that's very interesting. Has there been, in all your other business journeys, has there been a reason why you decided, I guess the question I'm asking is, has there been any other challenges you face along in those other businesses where that has led to specific challenges that has led to success today?
Yeah. I mean, all of them, right? I wasn't always this way, but I go through life now, and a lot of that came about through investing in myself through coaching to realize it, to gain some of these tools of, man, there's lessons to be learned everywhere we go, every single day, if you're open to them. So I've learned to be open to all of the lessons that are around us, all the different conversations, the people we meet, the things that happen around us, and how we can draw lessons from those to help us get better. Because otherwise it's lost opportunity, and it's oftentimes I would go through life and something would happen, and I would, you just dish it up to bad luck or bad karma or whatever you want to call it, right? And then you don't learn from it at all, and it just continues to happen because and then you're just like, man, this always happens to me, man. I just have bad luck or whatever it is, right? It's a lot of it is through that mindset of, hey, what can I learn from this so that I can get better, so that I can hope to avoid it the next time, or the next time that it happens or comes up or arises, I'm prepared to deal with it differently because I've learned from my past failures and mistakes. So yeah, I mean, there's countless opportunities where that's happened, right? Like I've been in a business partnership that just did not go well in a CrossFit gym, and it was too difficult. And so, after a time we sold it and we got out, and so there was lessons in there, and like knowing when to let go and go back to being really good at one thing instead of trying to be great at a few different businesses. And the lessons that were learned, and, partnerships, and how to deal with partners, and how to communicate, and how to negotiate, and how to create win-wins, and all of that. So yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of lessons that I've learned from my past failures and mistakes. And I just hope not to repeat too many of them, because then, obviously you're not learning something, right? So not to say I'm perfect. I'm not by any means. I still make mistakes. I still, sometimes from time to time, something will happen that happened to me before. And it's like, man, sometimes we're stubborn, right? We're hard headed. But yeah, I continue to try and grow and improve each day from everything that's happened to me.
100%. So we're coming up on our final two questions here. One of them is, if you had to do everything all over again, what would you have done differently, if anything?
Yeah, I don't, nothing comes to mind right now that I would necessarily do differently. I'm sure there's things along the line, but I'm also one to believe that, again, our experiences, good and bad, make us who we are. Right. And so it's just owning all of that and just being thankful for it. Cause it's helped me to be the person I am today. So yeah, I don't know that it would change a lot.
Yeah, no, it's hard, right? Because sometimes I look back in my life and I'm like, oh, well, if I look in hindsight, oh, I would have done this differently, I would have done that differently. But at the end of the day, it's like everything you've done up until this point has made you who you are. So to go back and say that now, it's almost like a fallacy, or I don't know if there's a better word for it, but it's just like a mental like game in a sense. So I completely agree with you there. Sometimes it's hard to look back and say you do anything differently. Everything has led you where you are. So if our listeners wanted to learn more about you, learn more about your leadership programs and how they might be able to become, a better leader by working with you, what would be the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, I would say go to my website and check out everything I have, my podcast, the coaching programs I have. I actually have a leadership group, free Facebook group on leadership for entrepreneurs and business owners. I got a blog up there, and try and keep everyone up to date on what I'm up to, and then also links to all my social media, and you can contact me through my website. So, and I will definitely get back to you and answer your question if you have questions, or if you want more information, or you want to connect. Like, that's the easiest way to go. NateBailey.org.
Awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and drop that NateBailey.org into the show notes below. As I said before, I was super impressed by the website. Go ahead and check that out if you're interested in leadership stuff. And thanks, Nate, for taking the time to come on the show today.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, leave us a review on iTunes and share the show with other business owners who may be facing their own growth challenges. And if you own a professional services firm, consider joining our private community. The Staying Power Collective is a community where owners of accounting, law, and consulting firms discuss best practices for running and growing virtual businesses. You'll get access to our Slack group, and you'll have a Zoom meeting once a month with a small group of other firm owners. To apply for the group, head on over to www.stayingpowercollective.com and fill out the brief form. And if you have suggestions for future topics or guests, or if you have general questions or feedback, send us an email at contact@stayingpowercollective.com. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great rest of your week.